I was intrigued by cell therapy. I think it was the time where the first cell therapies came on the market. So it was the first time you could really see cell therapy picking up. So that was kind of intriguing. And as a student in bioengineering, I followed that evolution there just because.
Hey, welcome to the Life Sciences 360 show. A passion for cell therapy in this PhD researcher's mind made him to go on a quest and democratize access to cell and gene therapy. When he did that, he was focusing on three things. He wanted to cut manufacturing costs, he wanted to reduce the production times, and he also wanted to simplify quality. Well, guess what? He just did that, and he co-founded MyCellHub in 2018. My guest today is Toon Lambrechts. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Harsh. Nice speaking to you.
Yeah, I wanna start off by asking you walk us through the journey. You're in university. You have this idea of starting MyCellHub. Walk us through what was that experience like, and how did MyCellHub start?
Cool. Sounds like such a long time ago, but basically it started at university. I was kind of by accident looking for an internship and stumbled upon Octane Biomedical, which is now the Lonza Cocoon, actually, technology. And I was working there for a couple of months, and the university asked me, like in Belgium, hey, we have a similar project. Would you mind working for a university, doing your PhD on this new bioreactor technology that we are developing for basically a customized 3D bone implant based on cell therapies. That was the start. So they asked me to do a research project on this, and how this led to MyCellHub is kind of a coincidence. I must be honest. This lab was developing personalized cell therapy basically, and I noticed that there was so much data lying around in the lab. I was always looking for data of 2 years ago of PhD students that left. Difficult to find the right stuff. And so basically my free time, together with my now co-founder Sebastian, we basically started building a tool to manage the data of that lab. And that was MyCellHub in a very embryonic stage, basically just for our own sake, making sure we could track all the bioreactor runs we were doing, link them to specific cell populations and patient IDs, donor IDs at that moment. It was preclinical. But that was basically the start of MyCellHub.
Yeah, I was curious, and I wanted to ask you, when I was going through your background, like why cell therapy? Like, was there a reason? Like, I know you did some research in that space, but it sounds like you did the research, you got this project, and then you also had some data available in that therapeutic area. So you basically merged all of that together. Was that how it felt? Is that how it went through?
I was intrigued by cell therapy. I think it was the time where the first cell therapies came on the market. Like in Europe, it was Digenics with some cell therapy products. So it was the first time you could really see this cell therapy picking up. So that was kind of intriguing. And as a student, in bioengineering, I followed that evolution there just because intriguing to see how we can re-engineer our own cells to heal crazy diseases, or maybe even augment or physiology. So that was kind of intriguing. The cell focus has remained. Well, first of all, because that's what I know best of my research, the network that I built up, of course, but also because the challenge is, in terms of data management, let's say, and quality control, is one of the biggest, in my opinion. Many cell therapies are very new. It's very novel technology. Many of them are not even super well characterized, so it's quite difficult to manage quality. And there's so much data going around these cell therapies that we need better tools. So the cell therapy kind of remained because it was the most critical pain point. In the meantime, we're actually using the same technology for other drugs like CBD, RNA, completely different use cases, but hence the name as well, MyCellHub. It's still the main focus. And it's always still the biggest pain point, especially, for example, like personalized therapies. Every batch of product that you make for a personalized therapy, often a cell therapy, you need to go through all the paperwork. You cannot have this, let's say, economies of scale of a typical classical pharma product where you have one big batch record, and basically that effort to keep trace of that batch record is distributed over thousands, or I don't know, maybe even more patients. In a cell therapy, especially personalized cell therapy, keeping track of all that paperwork has to be done per patient, and so it's a huge scalability issue. And if you want to scale this, if you want to bring this to the market at an affordable price, it's something we need to solve and automate as much as possible.
Agreed. Yeah, I also got my start in 2018 in the cell and gene therapy space. And that time I started this quality manager position at Juno Therapeutics, a cell therapy company based in Seattle, right? And then that got through 2 acquisitions. It was acquired by Celgene, and then Celgene was acquired by BMS. And then in 22 years, they launched their first product. So yeah, I hear what you're saying, because the chain of identity and the chain of custody is super important when it comes to personalized medicine, because you're dealing with either the patient's blood or whatever it is. It's one-to-one. It's not like you're making product at scale in a manufacturing facility. So I got a lot to learn from that role, how it's different. And I'm so glad I have that experience now, because it is the same concept, but applied differently.
Yeah, and especially at that time, I think it was very novel. Honestly, now we are getting used to it. It's still a challenge, but we're getting used to it. But I think in this 2016, 2018 period, no one really knew how it was done. And many people were still managing everything on paper, while, like you say, this chain of custody of those cells and where they travel, it's quite complex to keep track of it. Yeah.
Yeah, so you have this, I don't know if it's a mission statement or it's a tagline, that you're democratizing access to cell therapy using the platform. So walk me through, like, what does the solution do that it helps achieve that mission for cell and gene therapy companies?
It's indeed our mission statement. Look, pricing of medicine is something super complex, and I'm not claiming that we control the pricing of cell therapy. But in order to bring the price down, one of the main things for cell therapies that need to happen is to keep check on the manufacturing costs. At this moment, there's still a lot of manual handlings to be done. There's very expensive raw materials that go into it. There's a lot of complex logistics required. So all this just made that the price, the cost of manufacturing, of such a product is super high. I know it's a bit disconnected from the eventual selling price, but still we need to bring down that manufacturing cost. And one of the things that we saw, that all the manual work that goes into keeping track of all the record keeping, think about basically the start, cleaning the clean room, maintaining the clean room. All this is done in a GMP environment, and all those processes need to be documented with good documentation practices. And some cleaning, maintenance, manufacturing, material release, environmental monitoring, everything that happens in your clean room needs to be documented. And we saw that 25-30% of the cost of the product went into what I would call paper pushing. And there's so much paper to be reviewed, paper to be filled out. And if we could just take out part of that cost, we would be able to reduce the cost of manufacturing. So that is one of our main goals. Another goal of myself is also to make sure that the manufacturing becomes more easy. I would say, even if it's done manually, the goal would be that the operators can focus on producing the product, highest quality, and not have to put brain power, let's say, in making sure paper is filled out properly. Also with our more device integration and automation tools, our goal is also to make sure that as much of the complex manufacturing process can be automated. And there, I think, is also a big key into decreasing the manufacturing cost is basically by using small agile bioreactors that you can completely automate all the critical process, the unit operations of the process, for example. And by putting that all together, basically making sure we can automate the documentation, making sure we can guide the operators through the complex manufacturing processes without making errors. And by automating some of the recipes or the automation of the manufacturing, combining those will really bring down the cost of production.
It's really interesting that you mentioned 25 or 30% of the cost just goes into the authoring, reviewing, approval of all the paper workflows. Is that something you came through public research, or is that something you figured out after working with one or two clients?
It's a combination, and it's not only reviewing, but we take the whole life cycle, let's say, of the paper into account. We also take into account that you have to store those papers in climate-controlled rooms. Also, that has a cost. Also, the logistics of the paperwork has a cost. Imagine a large clean room facility, just the cleaning, the documentation of the cleaning. You need to make sure that every week someone puts the paper in the clean room where cleaners can check off what has been done, and at the end of the week, someone has to pick it up. We do take into account the logistics of the paperwork there as well. And that is a combination of internal research and publicly available information.
Okay. And when you started in 2018 with the company, I'm assuming you must have had a prototype or MVP of the product that you had imagined or visualized what it should look like. So what were some of the challenges that you faced in working with your first 2 or 3 customers, and how did that help in evolving the product over the last 5 years or so?
Interesting. Yeah, it's a good question, because we originally built the tool for ourselves, and we built it in a preclinical lab at university to manage preclinical data of donors that sometimes were humans, but quite often were sheep, rabbits, mice. So let's say that bringing the homemade, I would say, tool that we built for our own research lab and getting it up to, let's call it GMP standards, that was a challenge when moving into the first customers, for sure. I think we were very lucky that the university we worked at kind of helped us to incubate the idea for 2 years, actually, within the university walls. And we basically got a lot of freedom to figure out, okay, how do we bring the lab system up to the right standards, make sure we have the proper documentation, 21 CFR 11 compliance, in Europe Annex 11 compliance. Stuff like this was a bit of a culture shock for researchers to bring it into the real GMP. But yeah, nice learning curve there. We also hired the right people to bring it to the right level. But that was a big hurdle in the beginning.
Okay. And you talked about hiring the right people. So going from as a researcher working on this project to sort of now you have a product, you've validated the idea that there's a demand for this product, and you found your audience, which is cell and gene therapy companies or CDMOs or suppliers who could benefit from this. How did you go into like building your dream team, like the first 5 people that you hired to sort of scale this to now you're as a business owner or an entrepreneur? How did you go about hiring that first 5 people?
Well, we first noticed very quickly that we didn't know enough about software development. As bioengineering students, we could do basic coding, but not enough to really build a platform. So the first challenge was to find a more technical co-founder. Thomas also joined the team then, one of our co-founders. And then there was mainly the technical challenges to be solved. Like we know, okay, this is a regulation. We know we need to have electronic signatures. We know we need to have audit trails. We know we need to have backup and restore procedures, stuff like this. So basically we started from what are the regulations? What do we need in our platform? And make sure we kind of translate those. We also did the same for, okay, what is typically in a batch record? We kind of reverse engineered from there. What does our platform need to capture in terms of data? So that was on the, let's say, the essential requirements level was fairly easy. I think then the next step is a bit more niche knowledge in terms of how to validate this system. Like, I don't know if this is too boring, but the computer system validation background that you need to have to validate such a system is, at least in Belgium, is a bit of a niche skill. So there we hired consultants to do that. They helped us to bring the documentation to the right level. And now, only more recently, we're hiring QA people internally to keep it up to standard. But we worked often and for a long time with external consultants on this.
And I know this my next question is maybe a little bit off topic, but a lot of people have this inclination to start a venture on their own, and maybe they have the subject matter expertise, they have an idea of a solution through one of their projects, but they don't have the technical expertise. So how did you find Thomas? Was he like your colleague in university, or did you find him at a networking event? How did you, I guess, convince him to jump on this ship with you?
Yeah, it was quite clear that I had the idea. I struggled with managing that data myself. I struggled with finding the right data from the past and analyzing data where I don't have the right metadata. So I knew what I wanted. Building the thing was, it was a very, how do I say it? It worked only for my use case. So finding this technical co-founder was really critical. At that time, together with Sebastian, we joined a lot of these startup incubator type of sessions, and one of these, it was like 3 days, some kind of startup boot camp. We came into contact with Thomas. Thomas was building a completely other app, but he was using the same technology stack as we were using. And we were stuck on something. We asked Thomas to have a look at a technical issue where we were like stuck for, I don't know, just saying something, couple of days. Thomas fixed it in 10 minutes. And that was
that's your guy.
Where we're like, okay,
yep,
okay, this could work. And that's how we came together. Also there, the university was very supportive because it actually helped us to hire Thomas. So yeah, big thanks to the university to incubate our project in the beginning.
Yeah, that's such a fascinating story, to meet the right person at the right time. In your case, he was able to come in. So it's great to hear. And I'm sure other people are inspired and probably think of it like it's not a limitation. That's if you feel like you don't have the expertise, just reach out, network, tell people what you're working on. And those conversations could lead to stuff like this, where now it's history. You met him at that event. So,
and don't be afraid to talk about your ideas and ask help to people that you think might help. No one will steal the idea just because you have talked about it with them.
Yeah.
And that really helped to get some enthusiasm from external people for the idea. And they came up with, hey, maybe you have to talk to this guy. His startup just went bankrupt, so maybe he's free to help you out. So that's in the beginning how we got a lot of people on board.
Yeah, and that, again, I might be going again off topic on this second tangent, but that's one of the biggest misconceptions people have is, if I tell somebody what I'm working on or my idea, they're going to steal it. No, everybody's obsessed with what their job, their personal life, whatever. They don't have time to steal your idea. And the one thing I've learned in consulting and talking to tech co-founders like you over the 10 years in my 15 years in my career is it's never about the idea, right? Everybody has an idea to start a podcast or to start a newsletter or to start a SaaS solution, but they're not all successful. So I'm not saying the idea is not important. If the idea is completely unique, yes, it carries a lot of weight, but it ultimately comes down to execution, right? And to execute, you need the right people on your company. They need to be bought into your mission or whatever you're trying to achieve. And I think people just stop at that idea stage and they don't make the move to go to execution. That's when you start getting traction, and nothing happens overnight, right?
Yeah. And maybe to add one more element, I think a good portion of luck is needed as well. So you need a good idea,
yes,
good execution, and then you need to be lucky. And for example, meeting Thomas is a good example. Sometimes you just need to meet the right people at the right place, land at the right customer at the right time, speak to the right investor at the right moment. So you need luck for sure as well.
Definitely, yeah. Luck is a big part, but again, luck doesn't mean that people are gonna fall into your inbox. Luck is something you have to maybe be a little bit more intentional. Like you found out, hey, my chances of finding a co-founder are higher if I go to this event or if I go to this startup incubator because I know other people are coming there. So you couldn't have just sat in your university and expected to get a DM or a message from Thomas saying, hey, I want to work with you, right? So luck, when people think of luck, they feel like, oh, it will just magically happen and I don't have to do anything. No, you have to find your way into that room like you did, and then you find luck, which is you found Thomas to come on. So yeah, looking into the future, when you look at all the digital innovations, the tools, everything that's happening in the cell and gene therapy space or just in biotech, what do you see in the future? What kind of technologies or solutions do you expect to see in this industry?
It's probably not a surprise, but I think especially everything that has to do with document management, finding maybe patterns in kappas and finding information. I think the natural language processing hype, I would say, that we see now will revolutionize some of these things for sure. It's not a surprise, I think. But I also see that's maybe more on the manufacturing side, on the electronic batch recording. I would say the decentralized manufacturing. So the typical classical pharma of a massive clean room or facility where you manufacture one specific product in mass. It doesn't play well with the more high-tech, novel, often personalized therapies, where I think we will go to a distributed model with many more products made in smaller, more agile facilities. This brings a lot of challenges, but also a lot of opportunities, I think. So I guess the combination of those two, and I guess also, of course, automation. I mean, it sounds quite old school, but still in cell and gene therapies, a lot of the things are done manually. Not only the paperwork is done manually, but also quite often still there's manual operations, people having their hands in the laboratory airflow and manipulating cells and so on. So for sure, this still needs quite some way to go to revolutionize the manufacturing space.
And when you're looking at the industry landscape and you are thinking about MyCellHub and where it needs to go in 5 years, are you like developing some of these features for MyCellHub, like natural language processing or automation?
More and more, yeah. So at this stage, I would say we focused mainly to get, I would say, the best data, the data that is closest to the manufacturing process and that is quality controlled by the QA, in Europe the QP, and has QC tests. That's basically the data that we have in the batch record. We nailed this today, but now we can start building on, okay, we know we have the best data collected. How can we leverage that data? And there we more easily go into this field. I do believe, especially in GMP, that we need to be kind of careful with AI and everything that's black box. It's still not that easy to bring that into GMP. But for sure, we're experimenting, let's say, on the sidelines with making sure we are ready to deploy that technology in GMP as well.
Yeah, I would say like it's definitely something new that not a lot of companies, or maybe they are working on it, but it's not, there's still some challenges working with it in the GMP space. So from my experience working in consulting, we've worked on a couple of AI projects and we've had challenges trying to get that project through the validation or software development teams to approve that project, because there's a lot of API access to different AI models and then getting the data back and forth, extracting it, storing it. So right now it's a fun space to be in if you can get a project or two as a consultant or service provider or even a software company. If you're building those features, it's a very interesting space to be in. Definitely start with something simple and small. Like if you have deviations for a QMS, how do you automatically classify the deviations or watch trends? Like those are the easy examples that a lot of software companies are already working on. And many QMS already offering those AI features. But it's interesting to see what will come in the next 5 years as more and more companies adopt or open to getting into that.
I'm sure it will come. It's unstoppable at this moment. I think in 5 years, we will look at paper batch records as paper maps. We also don't drive a car with a paper map anymore. We have Waze or whatever on our phone.
Yes.
Or in the car that is telling how we should drive, and we trust it blindly. And it's doing a better job than we did with the maps. So we will see the exact same. It's unstoppable.
That's such an interesting example because I still remember an app called MapQuest. I remember printing, like going. So I don't know if MapQuest is still around, but
I know what you mean.
You can you can go to MapQuest and say I'm going from point A to point B, and it will give you like all the directions.
Guidance.
Yes, I remember doing that back in like 2009 or something when I had an internship or a job, and I had a car, and I was very new to driving in US at that time. So I didn't have a GPS or anything like that, but I was like, okay, I need to print the directions and then watch where I need to go. But I haven't done that. I don't even remember the last time I had it's mostly on my phone. So yeah.
Yeah. But that's the stage where I think batch records are now at. We print them out from the ERP system or maybe the MES system, but then we start selling them. Then we have a pile of paper, that we have to basically go through manually while driving the car. It will change into more like what MyCellHub is offering, but other companies as well, digital work instructions that guide the operators through the complex workflows, and that while they execute their work and while we collect data of the workflow, we can kind of guide them. It's like Waze tells you, oh, there's a traffic jam on your normal route. Maybe this detour is a better option. And this is the type of stuff where I believe we're quickly going towards, and where data analytics, maybe not this black box AI is probably not even needed, but data analytics will help a lot to make sure, based on this and this and this parameter in my previous data sets, I can maybe advise the operator to do this. And that is exactly where I think let's say the electronic batch recording and the documentation of manufacturing will go towards.
Yeah, 100%. Like the data creation and generation is not stopping or not slowing down. In fact, it's getting more and more, it's growing a lot. So to meet that demand of companies generating data, they have to come up with something different to manage those expectations, because manually it's not going to be able to keep up with the amount of data companies are generating. So yeah, and it's like I said, it's a very exciting space to be in.
Yep. I don't remember what Catapult in the UK. I think they calculated that there's just not enough QAs and QPs to manually check all the batch records that we are generating if we want to roll out the most novel cancer therapies like CAR T to the whole world. So that is one of the things we should keep in mind, is that it's super nice, modern technology is very nice medicines, but if we cannot manufacture them, why are we even trying? So this is to come back on the democratizing the access of cell therapies. I think that's one of our main goals, is to make sure that we can scale them up, we can do them, we can manufacture them at a reasonable cost so that they are accessible for everyone.
Yeah, definitely. So I really appreciate you coming on to the show and sharing your story and the journey of MyCellHub. And for the listeners who are inspired by what you've done in the cell and gene therapy space and what you're doing with MyCellHub, where can they connect with you or bounce off ideas?
It was my pleasure, for sure. If you want to know more, I would say visit our website, mycellhub.com, or reach out to me via LinkedIn. Happy to chat.
Yeah, thanks so much, Toon. We haven't met in person, but I hope someday if we run into a conference event or something of that sort, we'll get a chance to meet in person. But it was great chatting with you today.
Let's make that happen.
Wish you tons of success with. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks a lot. You too. Bye.